Walk into a grocery store and pick up a chicken. Feel the weight of it. Look at the color of the skin. Think about where it came from and what it ate and how it lived before it ended up wrapped in plastic on a shelf under fluorescent lights. Now imagine walking out to a farmyard and watching a flock of Rhode Island Reds or Plymouth Rocks moving through green summer grass. Heads down, working the ground, finding things, eating things, doing exactly what chickens were built to do. The difference between those two images is not just aesthetic. It is biological, it is nutritional, and it explains everything about why the chickens that come off Amish farms are consistently larger, healthier, and more productive than birds raised in conventional confined systems. Most backyard chicken keepers start with the right intention. They want healthy birds. They buy good feed. They keep the coop clean. And they still end up wondering why their chickens do not look quite like the ones they see on farms where things are obviously working better. The answer is almost never the feed brand. It is almost never the breed. It is the system the birds are living inside. The environment, the diet diversity, the space, the stress level, and the daily management decisions that either align with how a chicken's biology works or fight against it. Today, I am going to show you exactly 5 things Amish farmers do that produce bigger, healthier, more productive birds. By the end of this video, you will understand the system, not just the individual tips. There is a specific sound that a healthy Amish laying flock makes in the middle of a summer morning that you do not hear from a confined flock. It is the sound of contentment, the low, steady murmur of birds that are busy, not stressed, not competing, not waiting. Individual clucking as a hen investigates something in the grass. The occasional brief alarm call that resolves itself immediately. The background rhythm of dozens of birds working the ground simultaneously in a way that sounds nothing like the anxious crowding noise of birds that do not have enough space or enough to do. That sound is data. Experienced Amish farmers listen to their flocks the way a doctor listens to a patient, picking up information about health, stress level, and productivity from the quality of the noise the birds make before they ever check an egg count or examine a bird directly. A healthy Amish flock on managed pasture in July looks like this. Birds spread evenly across a section of green grass, no crowding, no competition at a single feeder, every bird actively engaged with the ground beneath her feet. The grass is short and worked but not stripped. The soil shows the evidence of recent scratching. The feeder in the corner has feed in it, but the birds are not standing at it. They are out there finding better things. The Amish understand something about chickens that modern poultry management has largely engineered around rather than worked with. A chicken that is living well produces well. Every system the Amish use is built around that single principle. What if everything holding your flock back from its full potential could be addressed through 5 specific changes that cost almost nothing to implement? Here is the first one. Free-range pasture. Foraging, the foundation of every healthy, productive Amish flock. Amish laying and meat birds spend the majority of their active daylight hours outside on managed pasture. Not a confined run, not a small attached pen. Actual ranging, moving across productive ground, finding insects, consuming seeds and greens, eating the varied natural diet that a chicken's digestive system evolved to process over thousands of years before the first commercial feed mill existed. The pasture is managed on a rotation schedule. The flock moves to a new section every 3 to 4 days. Fresh grass, undisturbed insect populations, earthworms that have had time to return to the surface after the previous visit. Each section rests long enough to recover its grass cover and rebuild the insect and worm populations that provide the majority of the flock's protein during warm months. Summer morning light across an Amish pasture shows birds spread out across green ground. Then confined birds on grain-only rations and return to full production faster after the molt completes. This approach has been standard in Amish chicken keeping for generations, not because Amish farmers are sentimentally attached to outdoor management, but because the results consistently outperform confined management on every measure that matters. Free-range pasture foraging works because it provides the complete nutritional matrix that a chicken's biology requires from the food source it was designed to eat. Commercial grain rations are carefully formulated to meet minimum requirements, but they cannot replicate the amino acid profiles found in live insects, the vitamin concentrations in fresh green plant material, or the mineral diversity available in healthy soil. Birds that forage on productive pasture consume a genuinely varied diet that their digestive and reproductive systems process more efficiently than any single-source ration. The result is stronger immune systems, better egg production, superior growth rates, and fewer vet visits compared to confined grain-fed birds. Even limited daily pasture access, 2 to 3 hours of genuine ranging on fresh ground, produces measurable improvement in bird health and productivity compared to full confinement. For a backyard flock of 20 to 40 birds, a simple 2-section rotation on a quarter acre can begin showing results within 1 full laying cycle. The improvement in egg yolk color alone, from pale yellow to deep orange, is visible within 2 weeks of consistent pasture access beginning. If your birds currently have no outdoor access or a limited bear run, identify one area of your yard where fresh grass exists that they could access safely for 2 to 3 hours each morning. Open that area tomorrow. Watch what they do with the first 20 minutes of access. The urgency with which they move into fresh grass tells you exactly how much their current system is missing. What if the food your birds eat every day is nutritionally narrower than their biology requires? And what if the solution is sitting in your kitchen and your garden right now at no cost at all? That is the second method. Natural diet diversity. Feeding the full nutritional spectrum that commercial rations cannot supply alone. Amish chicken flocks are never fed from a single source. Some of the grain ration, when grain is used at all during warm months, is always supplemented with fresh vegetables, kitchen scraps, garden surplus, and seasonal forage that provide nutrients dried grains simply cannot deliver at adequate concentrations. Wilted lettuce, carrot tops, overripe tomatoes, outer cabbage leaves, stale bread, bruised apples, beet greens. Everything that leaves the Amish kitchen and garden that is safe for chickens goes to the flock before it goes anywhere else. Cabbage heads hung in the coop at beak height provide entertainment, hydration, and vitamin C simultaneously. Split zucchini in summer. Pumpkin halves in autumn. The seeds are particularly valued by Amish farmers as a natural digestive support for the flock. Windfall apples chopped into pieces the birds can manage. The sound of a flock encountering a freshly split pumpkin in October is immediate and enthusiastic. Every bird in the yard moving toward it at the same time, the rapid pecking of dozens of beaks working the soft flesh and seeds simultaneously. That sound is the sound of birds getting something their grain ration does not provide. An Amish family supplementing 50 laying hens with daily kitchen and garden material, averaging 8 to 12 pounds of fresh produce per day through the growing season, consistently maintains egg production through the late summer period when many conventionally managed flocks experience significant production drops. The dietary variety supports the nutritional demands of the annual molt and the subsequent laying restart in a way that a grain-only ration cannot replicate. Stronger shells, deeper yolk color, and 20% more eggs per week compared to grain-only confined birds are the consistent observable outcomes of this supplementation practice. The vitamins most critical to egg production and bird health, A, D, E, and K, degrade in stored commercial grain over time. A bag of feed that spent 60 days in a warehouse before reaching your feeders may be significantly depleted in these nutrients by the time your birds consume it. Fresh vegetables and greens provide these vitamins at full natural concentration. The variety of fresh food also provides trace minerals and phytonutrients that dried grain formulations attempt to replicate with synthetic additives but never fully achieve. A bird eating varied fresh food alongside its grain ration is eating a genuinely complete diet. A bird eating grain alone is not. If you have any kitchen activity at all, you already have a free daily supplement for your flock. Start a bucket on your kitchen counter tonight. Every safe vegetable scrap goes in rather than the compost. Take it to the flock each morning before the grain ration. Within 2 weeks, you will see visible changes in yolk color. Within 1 full month, you will see changes in shell quality and production consistency. Put a bucket on your counter tonight. For 7 days, collect every vegetable scrap. Carrot tops, wilted lettuce, outer leaves, overripe fruit, stale bread, cucumber ends. Take the full bucket to your birds each morning. Watch which items disappear first and how quickly. The things they consume fastest are the nutrients their current diet is most deficient in. That observation is your guide. What if the single most damaging thing happening in your flock right now has nothing to do with disease or nutrition or feed quality? And what if it is something you could fix this week for free? That is the third method: low-stress flock management. Removing the hidden health and production suppressor most chicken keepers do not realize they have. Amish flocks are kept at densities that give every bird adequate space, adequate access to resources, and adequate social stability to function without chronic stress. The Amish standard, arrived at through generations of observation rather than regulatory requirement, is a minimum of 4 square feet of indoor coop space per bird and 10 square feet of outdoor access per bird. Many Amish farmers provide significantly more because they have watched the direct relationship between crowding and production decline play out across enough seasons to take it seriously. Feeder and waterer space is managed so that every bird in the flock can eat and drink simultaneously without displacement, consistent production. An Amish farmer who expanded his laying flock by 40% without expanding the coop or the outdoor access area reported a production drop of more than 20% within 6 weeks. When he restored the original density by building a second coop and dividing the flock, production recovered to previous levels within 3 weeks. The relationship between space, stress, and laying rate was direct, measurable, and reversible. He described it as the clearest farming lesson he had learned in 20 years, that crowding was invisible, but its effects were not. Chronic crowding stress elevates cortisol in laying hens at levels that directly suppress the hormonal cascade responsible for egg formation and healthy growth. The laying cycle requires a precisely timed sequence of hormonal events that cortisol disrupts at multiple points. A hen that is chronically stressed due to competition for space, feed, water, or nest boxes produces fewer eggs and grows more slowly, not because she is ill, but because her endocrine system is operating in a defensive mode that deprioritizes reproduction and growth in favor of immediate survival. The Amish manage density because they have observed this outcome across generations. The biology confirms what the observation shows. Check your current co-op density today. Divide your floor square footage by your number of birds. If the number is below 4, you have found a likely production suppressor that no feed change will fix. The correction does not require building a new coop immediately. It may mean reducing flock size to match your space, which typically improves production per remaining bird enough to compensate for the smaller flock within 1 season. Measure your coop floor space. Count your birds. Do the math. If you are below 4 square feet per bird, write down what it would take to correct it, whether through flock reduction, co-op expansion, or increased outdoor access time. Make a plan this week even if the implementation takes longer. Knowing the problem is the first step toward fixing it. What if the breed of bird you are keeping is working against your production and growth goals from the moment the chick hatches, before a single management decision has been made? That is the fourth method. Heritage breed. Selection. Choosing birds whose genetics support healthy growth and consistent production under natural management conditions. Amish farmers raise heritage breeds developed over generations for productive performance under natural management. Breeds like Rhode Island Reds, Plymouth Rocks, Wyandottes, Dominiques, and Australorps. These breeds were selected across decades of traditional farming for the ability to maintain strong growth and consistent laying on varied natural diets, in variable weather with seasonal day length changes, and without the controlled environment inputs that modern commercial hybrids require to perform. Spring on an Amish farm during chick season has a particular quality. The warmth of the brooder box in the corner of the barn, the high peeping of several dozen chicks that arrived this week, the smell of fresh pine shavings and chick starter feed. The breeds being raised are the same breeds the family has kept for 20 and 30 years. Birds whose characteristics have been observed across enough generations that the farmer knows exactly what to expect from them at every stage of development. An Amish farmer keeping 80 Rhode Island Red hens on 18 to 24-month commercial production cycle, after which hybrid hens are typically replaced. The longer productive lifespan of heritage breeds represents a significant practical advantage for small flock operations. Lower replacement cost, accumulated farm-specific hardiness, and consistent performance from birds whose genetics have been proven in the specific conditions of that farm. Heritage breed genetics include the biological resilience traits that commercial hybrid selection eliminated in favor of peak short-term production metrics. Heritage hens regulate their laying cycle in response to natural day length and seasonal temperature in ways that support sustained multi-year production. They forage more effectively on pasture. Their immune systems perform more robustly in outdoor conditions. They grow at a rate their skeletal and organ systems can support without the joint and cardiac problems that rapid-growth commercial breeds frequently develop. The bird's biology and the management system it lives inside are aligned rather than in conflict. If you are currently keeping commercial hybrid laying hens and experiencing the production cliff that typically occurs at 18 to 24 months, transitioning to a heritage breed flock is the single highest impact long-term change available to you. Rhode Island Reds, Plymouth Rocks, or Australorps will give you productive laying across 3 to 4 years with greater disease resistance, better foraging behavior, and genetics that improve over time as you select your own replacement birds from your best producers. Research the heritage breed hatcheries and local breeders available in your region this week. Compare production records and temperament descriptions for Rhode Island Reds, Plymouth Rocks, and Australorps. If you are planning any flock expansion or replacement this season, make your selection from heritage breeds. The first full year of production from heritage birds on pasture will show you the difference more clearly than any description can. What if one of the simplest and most overlooked management practices, something that takes less than 30 minutes per week, was responsible for more of the health difference between Amish flocks and conventional ones than any feeding or breeding decision? That is the fifth method. Clean coop management and natural light cycles, the foundational daily practices that make everything else work better. Amish chicken coops are cleaned consistently and thoroughly. Bedding replaced on a regular schedule, waterers scrubbed weekly, nest boxes refreshed with clean dry straw every 7 to 10 days. The interior of a well-maintained Amish coop has almost no ammonia smell. The sharp, eye-watering odor that indicates accumulated waste and bacterial load that suppresses immune function and respiratory health in confined birds. Amish farmers do not use artificial lighting to extend the laying day. Loose. The nest boxes are filled with clean material and show the evidence of recent use. The waterers are clear. The windows are positioned to bring in the morning light that starts the bird's biological day on schedule. Everything in the management of the space is oriented toward the bird's health rather than the manager's convenience. Respiratory disease is one of the leading causes of production loss and mortality in backyard chicken flocks. The majority of respiratory issues in confined flocks originate from ammonia accumulation in poorly ventilated, infrequently cleaned coops, a preventable condition that Amish farmers eliminate through consistent management rather than treating with antibiotics after the fact. Amish flocks kept in clean, well-ventilated coops with natural light management show significantly lower respiratory disease rates and require far fewer veterinary interventions than conventionally managed backyard flocks of equivalent size. So this approach has been standard in Amish chicken keeping for generations. Cleanliness as prevention rather than medication as treatment. Ammonia from accumulated chicken waste damages the respiratory epithelium, the cellular lining of the airways, at concentrations well below what humans can smell. Birds living in coops with even moderate ammonia buildup experience chronic low-level respiratory inflammation that taxes the immune system, reduces feed conversion efficiency, suppresses laying hormones, and creates vulnerability to secondary bacterial and viral infections. Regular co-op cleaning eliminates this chronic stressor before it affects health and production. Natural morning light management aligns the bird's hormonal laying cycle with the light conditions that trigger it most effectively, producing earlier daily laying completion, better shell quality, and more consistent production across the season. Clean your coop completely this week. Remove all bedding, scrub the waterers, refresh the nest boxes with dry straw, check for dampness or mold in corners. Check the orientation of your windows and whether morning light reaches the interior. These two changes together represent less than 2 hours of work and can produce visible improvement in flock health and production within 2 to 3 weeks. The Amish do not treat these as special interventions. They are simply the weekly rhythm of maintaining a flock correctly. Clean your nest boxes today. Remove all existing bedding. Check for dampness in the floor and walls. Add fresh dry straw to a depth of 3 to 4 inches. Confirm you have one nest box available per 4 to 5 hens. While you're in there, check whether your coop interior receives direct morning light. Both observations take 15 minutes and give you a clear picture of whether your coop environment is supporting or suppressing your flock's natural productivity. I want to tell you honestly about a mistake that cost me more than I expected. When I first started keeping a serious backyard flock, I did what most people do. I bought quality commercial layer feed. I kept the coop reasonably clean. I made sure the water was fresh. By every standard, I had been taught I was doing things right. My birds were healthy in the basic sense. They were alive. They were laying. But something was off, and I could not name it precisely. The yolks in my eggs were a pale yellow that looked nothing like the eggs I bought from the Amish farmer down the road. My hens were laying but inconsistently. Good weeks and quiet weeks without a clear pattern. And when I held one of my birds compared to one of his, the difference in body condition was something I could feel in my hands before I thought too carefully about what it meant. I finally asked him directly one afternoon, "What am I doing differently from you?" He walked me through his operation for about an hour. The pasture rotation, the kitchen bucket that went to the birds every morning, the density he maintained, 4 square feet minimum, more where he could manage it. The heritage breeds he had been selecting from his own best producers for 12 years, on the coop orientation that brought morning light in from the east. None of it was complicated, none of it was expensive. All of it was a system, each piece supporting the others in a way that my separate individual efforts were not. I went home and made a list, started the kitchen bucket that evening, built a second rotation section that weekend, ordered 6 Rhode Island red pullets from a heritage breeder to start transitioning my flock over the next year. By the following spring, my egg yolks were orange, not pale yellow. Orange. My neighbor noticed when I brought him a dozen eggs to thank him for the afternoon. He looked at the yolk and said, "There it is." I knew exactly what he meant. 3 mistakes most backyard chicken keepers make that consistently suppress flock health and productivity. Treating commercial grain as a complete diet rather than a base ration. Grain is useful. It is calorie-dense and convenient, and it keeps birds alive and producing at a minimum level. But it is not a complete diet for a bird whose biology evolved on insects, greens, seeds, and varied seasonal food sources. The Amish supplement every day because they understand that what grain cannot supply matters as much as what it can. The fix is the kitchen bucket, free, immediate, and producing visible results in egg yolk color within 2 weeks of consistent use. I treated grain as the whole diet for over a year before I understood this was the wrong frame entirely. Managing co-op density by what fits rather than what the birds need. It is tempting to keep adding birds to a functioning coop because the space seems adequate and the birds are not visibly fighting. The problem is that crowding stress is invisible in its cause and visible only in its effects. Declining production, increased pecking behavior are below what humans can detect by smell. By the time you can smell the problem, the birds have been living with it for weeks. The fix is a weekly nest box refresh and a complete bedding change every 3 to 4 weeks, regardless of whether the smell seems to require it. I let my coop go too long between cleanings for the first 2 years. The respiratory health improvement after I moved to a weekly routine was immediate and visible. Here is the thread that connects all 5 methods and explains why they work together as a system rather than as individual adjustments. Every practice the Amish use in raising chickens, the pasture rotation, the diet diversity, the density management, the breed selection, on the coop cleanliness and light management, is a response to the same fundamental question. What does a chicken need to live well? Not what does a chicken need to survive? Not what is the minimum required to maintain production at an acceptable level? What does a chicken need to actually thrive? To grow to its full genetic potential? To lay consistently across multiple seasons, to maintain strong immune function without pharmaceutical support, to be the kind of bird that produces the kind of egg that looks and tastes nothing like what comes in a carton from a commercial operation? The Amish answer to that question has not changed in generations because the biology has not changed. A chicken lives well when it moves freely on productive ground. When it eats a varied diet that includes live protein, fresh greens, and seasonal diversity. when it is not crowded or competing for survival resources, when its breed genetics match its management environment, when its home is clean and its morning begins with natural light. These are not complicated requirements. They are not expensive requirements. They are the conditions under which a chicken's biology functions as it was designed to function. And health and productivity are the natural outcomes of that biological function operating correctly. Self-sufficiency starts with understanding what the animals in your care actually need. Build the systems that provide it, and the results take care of themselves. The Amish figured this out generations ago. The evidence is in every egg basket and every healthy flock. 5 practices that together explain why Amish chickens grow bigger and stay healthier. Managed pasture rotation that gives birds access to the complete natural diet their biology requires. Diet diversity through daily kitchen and garden supplementation that fills the gaps commercial grain leaves. Low-stress density management that removes the invisible production suppressor most keepers do not know they have. Heritage breed selection that aligns bird genetics with natural management conditions. And clean coops with natural light management that support rather than work against the bird's biological rhythms. None of these require significant investment. None of them require expertise beyond observation and consistency. All of them are producing results right now on Amish farms where the birds are simply living the way their biology was designed to live. Start with one change this week. Open the birds to fresh ground. Start the kitchen bucket. Clean the nest boxes and check your density. One change. The direction of your flock's health will tell you within 2 weeks whether it is working. If this video helped you understand your flock differently, share it with another chicken keeper who is getting less from their birds than they expected and cannot figure out why. The answer is almost always in the system, and the Amish figured out the right system generations ago. Before you go, I want to hear from you directly. What is the single biggest challenge you are facing with your flock right now? Production, health, growth, or something else entirely? Drop it in the comments below. I read every one, and your specific challenge might become the focus of a future video. The most common problems I hear about from this community are the ones I want to address next. And next week, I am going to show you exactly how Amish farmers feed hundreds and sometimes thousands of chickens while spending far less on commercial feed than any comparable operation. The specific crops they grow deliberately for their flocks, the foraging systems that reduce grain dependence by 40% or more through the growing season, and the one management change that makes the biggest single difference in feed cost for any flock size. If your feed bill is your biggest ongoing expense, this is the video you need to see. That is next week. Do not miss it.